Okay, let's begin. The Speed Reading Book by Tony Buzan. Chapter 7. Onward to Super Speed Reading, the Speed Reading Hall of Fame. Preview: The Speed Reading Greats. Two fantastic speed reading stories, expanding your visual power, brain reading, summary, and high IQ action points. Brain bites. Great artists, thinkers, scientists, and some presidents read at speeds of over 1000 words per minute, so can you. Chapter 7 introduces you to some of the great speed readers of history and their speed reading feats, explains how to expand your side or peripheral vision, and reveals the secrets behind brain reading. The Speed Reading Greats. The Speed Reading Hall of Fame. The Speed Reading Hall of Fame reads like a who's who of the great political, scientific, and philosophic thinkers of all time. An indication that speed reading, combined with the ability to understand, recall, and use the material you read, plays a major role in achieving success. John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill, the British utilitarian philosopher, ranked number 90 in the all-time list of great geniuses, is said to have read books by taking in entire pages in one visual gulp. Mill's story shows the importance of encouragement and motivation. In his early years, his father, a college professor, would give the young boy a book, tell him to go into another room for a brief period of time, read the book, and then come back and discuss what he had absorbed. This positive and high pressure on the young boy to concentrate and speed through the assigned material encouraged him to develop into an extremely competent speed reader. One good way of increasing your own motivation and skill is to undertake the same exercise John Stuart Mill's father gave to him. You can discuss what you have absorbed with a friend or partner. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt was one of the fastest and most voracious readers of the leaders of nations. It is reported that he could read an entire paragraph at a single glance, regularly completing a book at one sitting. He apparently started out with average reading speeds, which he decided to work at improvising. His first steps included the increasing of his original fixation span to 4 words per stop, then to 6 and 8 words in a single fixation. Roosevelt subsequently practiced reading 2 lines at a time and then began to zigzag his way down the pages, reading small paragraphs with single eye movements. His approach was identical to that of today's leading speed readers. Professor C. Lowell Lees. Professor Lees was chairman of the speech department at the University of Utah in the 1950s. Without him knowing it, his reading speed inspired one of the major advances in this field. A young student, Evelyn Wood, handed in her 80-page term paper to the professor, expecting him to read it at his leisure and return it to her later. To her surprise, he took the paper from her, completed it in under 10 minutes, graded it, and handed it back to her as she sat in stunned amazement. Evelyn, who was later to become one of the leading figures in the dynamic reading movement, reported that Professor Lees really had read her paper. In the ensuing conversation, she found that he was not only completely familiar with everything she had written, including all her arguments, he was also aware of all the flaws in her work. Assuming there were between 200 and 250 words per page, Professor Lee had read and fully comprehended her paper at a speed of approximately 2,500 words per minute. Inspired by this, Evelyn Wood researched the field thoroughly and later went on to teach reading at the University of Utah and establish her own dynamic reading institute. President John F. Kennedy. President John F. Kennedy is perhaps the most famous speed reader ever. This is because he emphasized his intelligence and mental capacity during his campaigns and made it publicly known that, having been a normal reader whose speed was approximately 284 words per minute, he has studied speed reading. It became widely known that he worked at the skill until he had reached speeds of over 1000 words per minute. He also developed the ability to read at a great range of speeds, allowing him exceptional flexibility to vary his rate on the very different kinds of material he was obliged to read every day. Sean Adam. Sean Adam, current world speed reading record holder, like many others, started as an average reader. Sean's story is even more remarkable in that as a child, he had serious visual problems and spent years studying his visual system in order to improve his general eyesight, which he did, with remarkable persistence and dedication. Once his eyes were working more flexibly, Sean started in 1982 to accelerate his reading speed and currently holds the world record at a superb 3,850 words per minute. Reports from his Alpha Learning Institute in Europe indicate that he is preparing to take on all challenges and has already stretched his own limits to a remarkable 4,550 words per minute. Vanda North. Vanda North, currently ranked third in the world, became interested in speed reading when she was president of the International Society for Accelerated Learning. What better activity for the president of such an organization than to accelerate her reading speed? This Vanda did by practicing all the techniques described in this book in a very short time. She was able to reach a comfortable 3,000 words per minute. A particularly interesting point raised by Vanda is that for years she had been reading at a speed which, because it was normal, she assumed to be natural and unchangeable. When she realized the possibility of increasing her speed, her initial reaction was one of extreme excitement. She set about reducing bank skipping and regression, increasing the speed of her eye movements and expanding the length of her fixations. After 7 minutes, she had doubled her speed from 200 words per minute to 400. Her own reaction to this rapid improvement was one that surprises her to this day. For mixed with her elation was a deep fury. Vanda suddenly realized that for 21 years she could have been reading twice the amount with better comprehension, or she could have read exactly the same amount and had nearly a year extra to be with friends, to travel, to explore, and to have even more fun. Vanda was also found that, contrary to all expectations, she is able to proofread material at 5 or 10 times the rate of the average proofreader while making fewer errors. Practice your own super speed reading techniques and catch her if you can. In fact, Vanda is the external editor-in-chief of the book you are now reading. Two fantastic speed reading stories. Antonio Di Marco Magliabecci. Antonio Di Marco Magliabecci was a contemporary of Spinoza, Sir Christopher Wren, Sir Isaac Newton, and Leibniz. He was born on 29 October 1633 in Leonardo da Vinci's birthplace, Florence. His parents were so poor that they were unable to provide him with any formal education, and at a young age he was apprenticed to a local fruit dealer. Magliabecci spent his spare time in the shop trying to decipher what was on the pamphlets and journals that were used to wrap the groceries. One of the shop's regular customers was a local bookseller who noted the young man's attempts to read the strange hieroglyphics before him. The bookseller took him to his own shop, and Magliabecci was almost immediately able to recognize, remember, and identify all the books. With the bookseller's help, Magliabecci eventually learned to read properly and began to combine his newfound reading ability with phenomenal memorizing techniques, which enabled him to remember nearly everything he read in its entirety, including punctuation. The skeptical author decided to put the lad's growing reputation for speed reading and memory to the test and gave Magliabecci a new manuscript that he could never have seen before, telling him to read it before pleasure. Magliabecci duly read the manuscript at a remarkable speed and returned it almost immediately, confirming that he had read it in its entirety. A little while after the event, the author pretended that he had lost his manuscript and asked Magliabecci if he could help him to remember some of it. To his astonishment, the young man wrote out the entire book for him, transcribing perfectly every single word and every punctuation mark as if he had been copying from the original. As time went on, Magliabecci read at greater and greater speeds and memorized increasingly large numbers of books. He eventually became so famous for the speed at which he devoured and absorbed knowledge that experts in all subjects came to him for instruction and source material in their own areas of interest. Whenever he was asked questions, he answered by quoting verbatim from the books he had read and automatically memorized. His reputation spread, and he was eventually hired by the Grand Duke of Tuscany to act as his personal librarian in order to be able to handle the volume of material in the entire library. Magliabechi decided to develop his speed reading abilities to an almost superhuman extent. Contemporaries reported that he could simply dip into a page, apparently absorbing the contents in their entirety with only one or two visual fixations. Much to the amazement of those whom he allowed to watch him, he developed a reputation for having read and memorized the entire library. Like most geniuses, Magliabechi continued to develop his abilities as he became older. The more he read and memorized, the faster he was able to read and the more he was able to remember. The story goes that in his later years, he would lie in bed surrounded by volumes, each of which he would devour in less than half an hour, memorizing them in turn until he fell asleep. Then he continued to do until his death in 1714 at the age of 81. If Magliabechi's eye-brain system was capable of such incredible reading and memory accomplishments, why do the rest of us crawl along at speeds which make us functionally illiterate by comparison? The answer appears to lie not in any lack of basic ability, but in the fact that we have actively and unwittingly trained ourselves to become slow. In other words, we have adopted belief systems, reading practices, and habits that destroy our ability to read at any higher speeds and with any reasonable comprehension. Eugenia Alexienko, in his book How to Pass Exams, World Memory Champion and Grandmaster of Memory Dominic O'Brien, reports the incredible story of Eugenia, whose accomplishments today seem to match those of Magliabechi 350 years ago. According to a senior researcher at the Moscow Academy of Science, this amazing girl can read infinitely faster than her fingers can flick the pages, and if she didn't have to slow herself down by doing this, she would read at a rate of 416,250 words per minute. At the Kiev Brain Development Center, a special test was set up for 18-year-old Eugenia with a panel of scientists present. They were confident that the young girl had never read the test material before because they had obtained copies of political and literary magazines that appeared on the newsstands in that very day, while Eugenia remained isolated in a room at this testing center. To make her task even more difficult, they obtained obscure and ancient books as well as recently published ones from Germany which had been translated into Russian, the only language Eugenia knows. While Eugenia was kept isolated and entertained, the examiners read the test materials several times and took copious notes on their contents. They then placed 2 pages of the material before her to see how fast she could read. The result was as stunning to them as Dr. Lee's had been to Evelyn Wood, as Antonio Magliabechi's had been to his contemporaries. Eugenia apparently read 1,390 words in a fifth of a second, the time it takes to blink your eyes. Eugenia was also given several magazines, novels, and reviews, which she also read effortlessly. One of the examiners reported we quizzed her in detail, and often it was very technical information that a normal teenager would never have been able to understand, yet she gave answers that proved that she understood it perfectly. Remarkably, no one knew of the young girl's unique ability until she was 15 years old. At that time, her father, Nikolai, gave her a copy of a long newspaper article. When she handed it back to him 2 seconds later, saying she found it interesting, he assumed she was joking when he questioned her on the content. However, all her answers were correct. Eugenia herself says, "I don't know what my secret is. The pages go into my mind and I recall the sense rather than the exact text. There's some sort of analysis going on in my brain which I really can't explain, but I feel as if I have a whole library on my head." Expanding your visual power. In chapter 6, you discovered that your eye was capable of taking in more words per horizontal fixation. You are now going to do a series of exercises which will prove that your perceptual abilities stretch far beyond even your current improved capability. See Figure 8, page 88. Measuring your horizontal and vertical vision. First, looking straight into the distance and keeping your focus on a point as far away as possible, touch the tips of your 2 forefingers together horizontally in front of you, 75 centimeters 3 inches from the bridge of your nose. Begin wriggling the tips of your forefingers and slowly pull them apart along a horizontal line, keeping your eyes focused in the distance. Only when you can no longer see the movements of the tips of your fingers out of the corners of your eyes do you stop and measure the distance of your horizontal vision. In the second part of the exercise, do exactly the same, this time placing the tips of your fingers vertically and again wriggling them and slowly pulling the fingers apart until you can no longer see the movement out of the top and bottom of your field of vision. Only now do you stop and measure the distance of your vertical vision. Do these exercises now. The results? Amazing, wasn't it? People often find that their horizontal vision is as far as their arms can stretch. The vertical vision is slightly shorter, but only because of the eyebrow bone. How is this possible? The answer lies in the way the human eye is designed. Each of your eyes has 130 million light receivers in its retina, which means that you have 260 million receivers of light in total. What percentage of your eyes do you think is devoted to your clear or central focus, and what percentage is devoted to your side or peripheral focus? Fill in your answers below. Percentage, central focus, and side focus. In fact, your clear focus has only 20% of the eye/brain system devoted to it, while your peripheral focus has a staggering 80%. This means that of the 260 million light receivers you have working on you, over 208 million are devoted to your peripheral vision. Why is such a large percentage devoted to this? The reason is that most of the events in the universe are happening around your central focus, and it is essential for your survival that your brain be aware of every change in your environment in order to direct you towards what you need and away from danger. In traditional methods of teaching reading, we have concentrated only on the clear focus vision, thus using less than 20% of the visual capacity available to us, and using even that small percentage to an utterly inappropriate way. Readers like Antonio Magliabechi, John Stuart Mill, and President Kennedy all trained themselves to utilize the vast untapped potential of their peripheral vision. You can do the same. Seeing with your mind's eye, you are about to perform an experiment in perception that will astonish you and will change you for life. What you will be doing in this experiment is disconnecting your brain from your clear focus and actively seeing with your mind's eye. When you have read this paragraph, turn to page 89 and place your finger directly underneath the word lines in the middle of your page, keeping your eye totally focused on the central words. 1. See how many words you can see to either side of the central word without moving your eyes. 2. See how many words you can see clearly above and below the word you are pointing at. Number 3. See if you can tell whether there is a number at the top or bottom of the page, and if so, what it is. 4. See if you can count the number of paragraphs on the page. 5. See if you can count the number of paragraphs on the opposite page. 6. Can you see if there is a diagram on either of the pages? Number 7. If you can see the diagram or illustration, can you clearly or roughly determine what it is? Do this exercise now. A, M, B, middle, C, image in the middle of, and D. Hunch you enter the central image is positions your central same way as you do and branches each in your computer A branch. Figure 8. Development of increased visual field in advanced readers. A. Focus on a single letter as when a child first learns to read the phonic method. B. Focus on the single word, the poor to average reader. C. Focus on 5 words at a time, the good reader. D. Focus on groups or bunches of words, the advanced reader. The results? Most people answer yes to most of the questions. This easy exercise demonstrates that your brain acts as a giant central eye that scans the entire world behind the lenses of your physical eyes, whereas most people spend their lives with their brains shackled to the tunnel vision of direct focus. The better readers, thinkers, and survivors use the full range of their brain's usual skills. Cyclopean perception. Your brain's ability to see with the central eye recently exploded into the popular arena with the Magic Eye series of books. These books were based on the groundbreaking work of Professor Bella Jules of the Sensory and Perceptual Process Department of Bell Telephone Laboratories. Jules' images are composed of 2 sets of finely woven dots. Each set forms part of an image. Each eye takes in a part, seeing only a flat representation. Your staggeringly sophisticated brain performs an astonishingly complex mathematical and geometric feat, combine both images to give dramatic three-dimensional pictures that are seen as not in external reality but only by the brain. See plate 2. Brain reading. The revolutionary new approach being offered to you in the speed reading book is that from now on you will read with your brain as the central focus of your attention and not your eyes. Your eyes are a million-faceted puppet, your brain the master puppeteer. The super speed reader of the future will be the person who combines peripheral vision with cyclopean perception. See figure 9. Fields of vision. The inner circled area shows the area of clear vision available to the speed reader when the eye/brain system is used properly. The outer circle shows the peripheral vision also available. Above, to take in, as Magliabechi did, entire paragraphs and pages at a time, an accomplishment which, in the light of our new awareness, now seems far more attainable. One easy way to do this is to develop your fledgling skills with a guide into more advanced meta-guiding techniques. See Chapter 8. In addition to using meta-guiding techniques, you can also expand the use of your peripheral and cyclopean perception by holding the book at a greater distance from your eyes than normal. By doing so, you allow your peripheral vision to see the page far more clearly as you read. The tremendous advantage of this is that while your clear focus is reading the 1, 2, or 3 lines on which you are concentrating, your brain reader is using its peripheral vision to review what you have already read and preview the text to come. In this way, it is vastly improving your memory of the material you have already covered and is also preparing you for the material ahead, much as a reconnaissance scout prepares troops for safer and more speedy movement across the unknown territory. An added advantage of this soft focus approach is that your eyes can have to do far less tight muscular fixating. They therefore become far less tired and you feel able to go on reading for longer periods of time. Many people find that by using this approach, stiff necks and headaches, a common problem for many readers, are eliminated. Summary. Speeds of over 1,000 words per minute are definitely attainable. Many historical figures have accomplished these and higher speeds with ease. Number 2. Your eyes contain 260 million light receivers. Number 3. More than 80% of these light receivers are devoted to your peripheral vision. Number 4. Your peripheral vision is exceptionally wide and very deep. Number 5. It is your brain that reads. Your eyes are simply the very sophisticated lenses it uses. Number 6. The super speed readers of the future will be brain readers using both the full range of their peripheral vision and their cyclopean perception. High IQ action points. 1. In your daily life, set yourself brain perception goals. Start by getting your brain's eye to hunt out a particular set of objects or colors or shapes in your environment. Try using your brain's eye when you read anything. Continue practicing with your guide, occasionally experimenting with taking 2 lines at a time. 4. Always have your reading material as far away from your eyes as you can comfortably manage. Onward, you have now made the leap from being a normal speed reader focusing primarily on your eyes to being a super speed reader focusing primarily on your brain. In the next chapter, you will be introduced to some meta-guiding techniques which together harnesses your peripheral vision and your cyclopean perception. Done. Thank you.